I'm talking to Thomas Vinterberg. We're on top of the Thompson Hotel, a name I like a lot. And we're talking about The Hunt, which is finally coming out in this country. I saw it in Cannes in 2012, and that was the time that Mads Mikkelsen won Best Actor.
You're right about that.
I loved the movie. It was well received, and I felt like it got a lot of attention. And now there's been a delay in bringing it to this country. Can you explain what took so long?
Yeah. Hi, Thomas. Well, we went to Cannes in 2012, May. At that time, we had already decided on a release date in Denmark, January 13, because there's this big society club with a lot of members that buys a lot of tickets. They gave us that release date back in Denmark. We considered changing it because the film was sold worldwide and suddenly was opening in a lot of other countries than our own country before. But that day was so great for the release of this film, so we stick to it. So we opened January 13th successfully. A lot of tickets were sold, so it worked. And then that brought us into this season.
And last year there was Royal Affair, which also starred Mads, and so that became the official Danish entry for the Oscar. Just thinking in our terms.
That hasn't actually anything to do with this, because I guess there's rules in this Oscar game.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the rules is that when you open in your home country, January 13, then it's belonging to this year. So,
Correct.
So it was kind of, that was what happened.
Yeah. So he's back, and this is the official Danish submission, and it's playing very well. You're here doing the rounds. Have you done this particular dance before?
No, never. And it's exciting. I have to say, it's been really well received. Profoundly moved people comes over after the screening. That makes me happy, obviously.
Well, that's the intention of the filmmaker. The movie is very disturbing. It's disturbing because it shows how quickly people are willing to overcome all the strongest feelings and bonds of friendship and family in the face of something abhorrent.
Yeah.
How did you come to want to tell that story?
Well, I did another film, slightly similar subjects, back in '98, called The Celebration, Festen. And a couple of years after that, there was a child psychiatrist knocking my door, saying, "Are you Thomas Vinterberg?" "Yes." "You don't know me, but you've done Festen, right? The Celebration." I said, "Yes." I said, "Well, then there's another film you have to do." Talked about added memory, children and their fantasies, and he said you need to do the antithesis of the film you did back then, because there's another story that hasn't been told. And I was like, yeah, fine. Shut the door and put the files that he gave me on a shelf. And then actually quite some time after, 5-7 years later, when I needed a psychiatrist, I thought, well, I better read these files before I call this man, out of politeness. And I was spellbound and disturbed and horrified and moved and felt a slight sense of moral obligation to tell this story. See, the thing is that these children that are being interrogated over and over again and sent to gynecologists, and the mother is crying, the father may end up in a fight, someone is being put in prison, even though nothing happened. These children end up remembering stuff that didn't happen. That is what is called added memory, and they end up suffering almost as much as those who actually experienced it. So it's yet another violation of the children, and yet again they're the losers of this game. And that's why I felt we got to tell this story as well.
So what's so great about it is that you're very invested and very comfortable with this very nice man, this teacher who's trying to reclaim his life after a messy divorce. And Mads Mikkelsen is so decent and so warm and so loving toward this girl.
Yeah.
And you know, the audience knows without any doubt that he's innocent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not the game you're playing.
No, we decided, that is Tobias Lindholm, the co-writer, and myself, decided very early on to play him innocent all the way. It would be, it's almost a convention to surprise the audience and say, do we know, is he guilty or not? But I wanted to be with him, close to him, emotionally. And I thought it created a distance to this character that we didn't need. But it was quite a bit of a challenge, because the audience do expect us to play games with them.
They do.
And every time the camera was a bit too low angled or Matt's glasses steamed up, he did look a bit pedophile. We had to change the angle immediately to maintain the clear statement of a man being innocent. So we worked hard.
Well, it's so devastating to watch an entire community turn on a decent human being, and then he fights back, which is also very, very moving and necessary.
It's quite interesting, this thing you talk about now. When we showed the film in Cannes, you were there. There's a scene quite late in the film where the main character suddenly headbutts someone in a supermarket. And that's where people start clapping.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. So suddenly this very civilized, loving, kind, humble man becomes an uncivilized creature, and then people start clapping. Isn't that interesting? I understand why they do it, obviously. I felt the same sensation writing it, but somehow it's a bit disturbing, I guess.
So I'm also interested in your trajectory as a filmmaker. I saw Festin Celebration. I was very struck by it in Cannes back then, and you were one of those talented, gifted people who was discovered by Hollywood and came here to do English language films. And it looks like it was not necessarily an entirely gratifying experience.
Well, actually, I didn't come here. I ended up doing some English language movies, but we did them on Danish soil.
Interesting.
But I had some interesting years. Yeah, I started very early even with my graduate film and the films I did after that.
And you were a big proponent of Dogma. You were one of the inventors, the founders of Dogma. Is that something you like to own, or do you think it's sort of a mythology now that does it still mean something to you, Dogma?
Oh, it means a great deal to me. But the whole idea with Dogma was to create renewal and to take a chance. There was a risk connected to it. We wanted to undress the movie, make it as pure and naked as possible. And it was a revolt against the conventions of filmmaking. And then overnight it became a huge success in Cannes in '98. And suddenly it was fashion and a recipe of success. And then obviously it wasn't interesting anymore. It wasn't as risky anymore. And,
I still think it had an influence over time, and that the naturalism that is pervasive now still comes from that source. I believe that.
Oh yeah, that's not what I mean. It was not interesting to us anymore. And I felt that I had completed something with Festin. I felt I couldn't come further down that road.
I see.
And I know that it created a huge impact on a lot of young filmmakers, and I'm proud of that. And I thought it was fantastic that time. But it was also the time to move on. And I had to completely reinvent myself and my ways of making film. And that left me very vulnerable. It created a bit of turmoil. But those days were wonderful still. I did some of the films that I'm most proud of. I consider It's All About Love my troubled child, in the sense that it's my dearest child, but it's the one that behaves worst socially. I think that's sort of how you can explain it.
And now you're going to do Far From the Madding Crowd, which is one of my favorite Thomas Hardy novels and a great movie. and you've done some remarkable casting. Where are you on the film now?
We wrapped 5 days ago, Far From the Madding Crowd.
Congratulations.
Fantastic experience working with Carey Mulligan, Matthias Schoenaerts, Michael Sheen, Tom Storage, Juno Temple. Really, really great actors, all of them. It was a very intense experience because you had to do 210 scenes. There's a lot of scenes in 9 weeks in difficult English weather, including a lot of animals, sheep and horses. But it was a joyride at the same time.
You're smiling.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's rare that you would feel, I can see you're proud of what you've just accomplished.
We never know at this point how it's going to work. You have to start editing, then you know. But at least I can say the experience was great.
And how would you describe the difference between your Madding Crowd and the other one, the classic one?
I don't know how many similarities there is. I mean, that was a different script. It's a completely new adaptation of the book. And I don't think they have much in common, actually. But maybe, I mean...
Did you not look at it? Did you decide not to look at it?
I must admit, I saw some of it, and then I decided not to move on.
Yeah, yeah. Now you have to make it your own.
Then
of course.
I peeked into some... How did they do the fire? But I never saw the whole film.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm enjoying talking to you, but this is going to have to be it. Thank you.
Okay, all right.